We need to talk. 4 little words. The 4 horsemen of the textual apocalypse. It's strange. A whole world, a whole life you've built with someone can be brought to its knees by a handful of syllables popping up on a little glass screen. For most people, I suppose it means you left the toilet seat up one too many times, or you forgot an anniversary. It's the prelude to a fight, to a night on the couch. For me, it was the end of everything. It was the moment I knew, with a certainty that was as cold and hard as the concrete I'm leaning against, that I'd failed. And I've been failing ever since. Which brings me here, to this quiet, tree-lined street in a part of town I don't know. Standing in the damp shadows of a sycamore tree. It's almost 2 a.m. The drizzle, which started an hour ago, has soaked through the collar of my jacket. I should be freezing cold, but I don't feel the cold, not really. All I feel is a deep, all-encompassing emptiness. What else can you feel when someone who's been a part of your life suddenly isn't? I don't really feel anything anymore. My Sarah is in there, safe, or at least she thinks she is. She's in her new place, her new life, her little beige box of safety. She thinks she's safe from me. She never understood, not even at the end, that I was the only thing standing between her and them. It all started so small, you wouldn't have even noticed it. A year ago, I was just Jake. I had a decent job as a data analyst, which is a fancy way of saying I stared at spreadsheets until patterns emerged. I was good at it. Very good at it. I could find the blip in the sales chart, the anomaly in the logistics chain. Finding the thing that didn't fit was my talent. Sarah used to joke that I could find a typo in the Bible. We had our apartment, the one with the bay window she loved, and we were happy. We were boring and happy and normal. And then, one day, I saw the man in the grey hat. He was just a guy on the subway platform, waiting for the train like everyone else. But he was there every morning, standing in the exact same spot. And he was there every evening when I came home. He never got on my train. I started watching him, and he started noticing me watching him. A slight turn of his head, a gaze that lingered a second too long. It was probably nothing, a coincidence, a man with a routine. But my brain, my pattern-finding brain, latched on. It was an anomaly, and I couldn't let it go. That was the first note I pinned to the wall. A little sticky note, right by the light switch. Grey hat, 7:30 a.m, uptown platform. Again. Sarah laughed when she saw it. "Ooh, a mystery," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "What'd he do? Steal your bagel?" A week later, a plumbing van was parked across the street from our building all day. I took a picture of the logo, a cartoon droplet with a cheesy smile. The next day, I saw the same logo on a business card lying on the ground, 2 blocks from my office. Another coincidence. Except the card wasn't for a plumber. It was for a 24-hour locksmith. Another note went up on the wall, next to the first one. I drew a little line connecting them. That was how the wall began. It was all so innocent at first. I suppose I wanted a distraction. It was my project, my hobby. But hobbies can become obsessions. My spreadsheets at work seemed boring, the patterns meaningless. The real data was out here in the world. The man in the grey hat stopped appearing after a month, but it didn't matter. I'd started seeing other things. The same black sedan on my route home. The way a certain group of pigeons always seemed to gather on the windowsill opposite our living room. It was a network, a web, and we were the flies caught in the middle of it. I started staying up late, too wired to sleep. I'd sit in the dark by our bay window, watching the street below, a mug of black coffee steaming in my hands. The city at night isn't asleep. It's just quieter. You can hear things better. You can see the patterns more clearly. Sarah would find me there in the morning, my eyes gritty and red-rimmed. "Jake, honey, you need to rest," she'd say, her voice thick with sleep and concern. "You look awful." "I can't," I'd tell her, my voice a low, urgent whisper. "They're out there. They're watching." Soon, the wall in our living room, the eggshell white wall where we were supposed to hang pictures of our life together, became my canvas. The sticky notes were replaced by newspaper clippings about seemingly random accidents. I bought street maps and highlighted routes in red. I got a buddy from my old college days, a guy who worked security downtown, to pull some CCTV stills for me. Faces in the crowd, blurry but menacing. I pinned them up. And the yarn. Can't forget the red yarn. A spider's web of my own, connecting the plumber to the man in the hat, connecting the black sedan to a politician who'd given a speech near my office. It all made a terrifying kind of sense. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Sarah came home from work, carrying a bag of groceries. I remember she was humming. She walked into the living room and stopped dead. The humming died in her throat. I'd had a breakthrough. I'd spent the entire day connecting the dots, and I'd covered the last clean patch of the wall. She dropped the grocery bag. A carton of eggs shattered on the hardwood floor. "Jake, what is this?" she whispered. Her eyes weren't on me. They were on the wall, wide with a kind of sad, tired fear that was so much worse than anger. "It's the proof, Sarah," I said, my voice brimming with the thrill of discovery. I grabbed her arm, probably a little too tight, and pulled her towards it. "Don't you see? It's a corporate espionage thing. My company, your law firm. They're all connected to this holding company, Vesper Holdings. The man in the grey hat, he wasn't watching me, he was watching us. They're building a profile. They're planning something." She stared at the wall, at the crazed tapestry of my work. Then she looked at me, at my wild eyes and shaking hands. She gently pulled her arm free. "Jake," she said, her voice dangerously calm. "The man in the grey hat was Mr. Henderson from accounting. He told me you'd been staring at him, and it was making him uncomfortable. The plumbing company fixed a leak in my office building last week. That's why the van was there." "No," I said, shaking my head. "No, that's what they want you to think. It's a cover. It's too neat." "The only thing that isn't neat is this," she said, gesturing to the wall, to the gooey mess of broken eggs on the floor. "This is sick. You're sick. You need help." That night, she slept in the spare room. The next night too. We were living like ghosts in our own home. I'd hear her crying sometimes, and the sound was like acid in my gut. But I couldn't stop. I was so close. I knew that if I could just find the final piece, the one that made it all undeniable, she'd understand. She'd see that I wasn't crazy. I was right. Then came the night she left. I'd found it. The final piece. I'd stayed up for 72 hours straight, fueled by caffeine and sheer manic terror. The ultimate realization: they weren't after my work or her work. They were after her. I was just the obstacle. The noisy, inconvenient alarm system they needed to disable before the real burglary. I ran into the spare room, my hands full of papers, with my eyes burning. "Sarah, we have to go. We have to go right now," I said, my voice a hoarse croak. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed. Her face was pale and tear-streaked. She didn't even look at my papers. She just looked at me. And in that moment, I saw it. The end. She stood up, took her phone from the nightstand, and walked past me without a word. And she left. The next morning, I received the message I hoped I'd never get. "We need to talk." She told me she was staying with her sister. She told me not to call. She told me it was over. The next day, while I was out walking in a daze, trying to figure out a new plan to protect her from a distance, she came and got her things. When I got back, the apartment was hollow and silent. The only thing she'd left behind was the wall, a monument to my madness. So, now I stand here, because I can't let her go. I can't bear not to see her face anymore, even if it's from a distance. I can see her silhouette as she moves around her living room. She's on the phone. She's laughing. A part of me, a selfish, ugly part, hopes she's miserable without me. But the bigger part, the part that still loves her more than my own fractured mind, is just glad to see her laugh. She ends the call and puts a mug down on the coffee table. She stretches, her arms reaching for the ceiling. A beautiful, graceful gesture that makes my chest ache. I should go. This is wrong. I'm just a crazy ex-boyfriend she tells her friends about, with a shudder. I turn to leave, my feet heavy on the pavement. One last look. I can't help it. It's a compulsion. I look up at the square of yellow light. She's standing in the middle of the room, her back to the window, looking at a painting on her wall. And my heart stops. It doesn't just skip a beat. It seizes up in my chest. Because she isn't alone. A shadow detaches itself from the deeper shadows by her kitchen doorway. It resolves into a shape. A man. Tall and thin, dressed in black from head to foot. He's just standing there, a pillar of darkness in her warm, safe little world, utterly still. watching her. I was right. The thought is a thunderclap in my skull. A white-hot flash of vindication. It was real. It was all real. The wall was real. I was right. My first instinct is the lizard brain talking. Scream. Run. Break the door down. I can get there in 30 seconds. The front door of the house is probably flimsy. One good kick. Smash the window. Get to her. My muscles tense, coiling like springs. I need to save her. I need to prove that I wasn't crazy. I was the only one who saw. But then, a cold, insidious voice. The one that sounds a lot like Dr. Evans, my court-appointed therapist, whispers in my ear. And what if you're wrong, Jake? I freeze, my body caught between the two warring realities. The dark figure hasn't moved. Sarah hasn't noticed him. Is it real? Dr. Evans told me my brain would play tricks on me. He said I was so desperate to be right that my mind would literally create evidence out of thin air to support my delusions. A shadow from a passing car. A coat hanging on the door. Remember the wall, Jake, the voice says, calm and reasonable. Remember the yarn. Remember the fear in Sarah's eyes when you told her the pigeons were spies. This is a test. This is your sickness, your paranoia, trying to pull you back in. It's showing you the one thing you want to see more than anything in the world, just to see if you've learned your lesson. I begin to hyperventilate. I can still see him. The man. He's real. He has to be. But the doubt is a cancer. What if I smash down her door and she's just standing there, alone, staring at me with that same sad, terrified expression? I'd be finished. A restraining order wouldn't even cover it. They'd lock me up. They'd put me in a white room and fill me with drugs until I didn't even remember her name. I'd never see her again. Maybe this is the only way to truly protect her. To protect her from me. By trusting that I'm sick. By accepting that what I'm seeing is just a shadow. A trick of the light. A ghost conjured by a broken mind. A final, desperate attempt to prove a lie. The sane thing to do, the healthy thing to do, is to walk away. Slowly, with my muscles fighting me every inch of the way. I take a step back into the deeper shadows of the sycamore. Then another. I turn my back on the window. On the warm, yellow square of light, and the silent, dark shape standing within it. Every instinct is screaming at me to turn back, to be the hero she never knew she needed. But I force my legs to move, one leaden foot after the other. I'm choosing sanity. I'm choosing to be well. For her, this is the right thing to do. I walk away, down the dark, empty street. The sound of my own footsteps seems unnaturally loud in the quiet night. The drizzle stopped. And then a scream rings out, high and thin and sharp, cutting through the night air like a shard of glass.